That's all right. You'll hear this. There you go. It's a recording.
No worries. So yeah, a bit of a journey. It's pretty open, so any questions you guys want to ask, feel free to do so. So yeah, I thought I'd start with a bit of how we bring new plants into PGA, a bit of a breeding story, and then some of the new releases and stuff that we've got coming up. So hopefully it's entertaining and interesting. But yeah, rack up your questions or ask your questions, happy to answer. If I'm glancing down, I'm not that techno savvy. I've got some notes there, so it's not that I'm not paying attention. New plant introductions to PGA. It's really one of the lifeblood and mantles about what we've been about for all of PGA's history. Going back over since it really began, we're about interest and novelty and bringing great things to retail and gardeners. And there's three sort of basic ways we bring that in. There's general varieties that you'll see. They're not necessarily protected varieties. They may be sometimes available at other places, but we have them in our portfolio because we think it adds an important mix. It might be colour that we want in winter. It might be different foliage. It might be grasses that we're introducing because we want to keep our portfolio, I suppose, relevant and interesting all the time. So there's, and you guys see that from what you've purchased from us, there's general varieties that we grow. Then we get into the next level, which is pretty cool, and it's really wrapped around national and international connections. We link quite closely with PMA, and I think Bonnie gave the last talk, Lee, I believe so.
Yeah, Bonnie did, yes, that's correct.
Yeah, on hellebores.
Yes. Yep.
And we've produced the vast majority of hellebores from their PMA portfolio for New South Wales, Victoria, and South Australia. Mm-hmm. And it's sort of connections like that and other international sources that we have a relationship through, or we might have a relationship through, like PMA, that we can source novelty, great genetics internationally, and exclusivity to the market, to you guys. That lets us wrap around some great marketing and advertising and point of sale stuff that you guys obviously tap into. And the last bit, I'll just grab a drink, actually passionate about. Being a plant breeder myself, I suppose myself and my business partner, Howard Bentley, and Michael Cole, who some of you may have known, is now sort of retired, but Howard Bentley is a brilliant plantsman, and the two of us actually are passionate plant breeders and have been breeding plants for 20 years, and a lot of the plants that you see PGA promote have come from our own Australian breeding, which is great. We actually have a full-time breeder on now as well. I have had for many years actually, and that person, Jordan, looks after all the new plant development, and the three of us sit down and work on programs and what we can do. So I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But just to show you, sort of backing up from what Bonnie did, so she showed you some beautiful photos of hellebores last month, if you managed to see the presentation she gave about the Frost Kiss series. This is what we got in a couple of weeks ago. Oh, actually a bit more than a couple of weeks ago. It was sort of April-ish. This is the tissue culture and what the hellebores look like that you guys have had in your stores. These are all next year's ones. So they come in out of tissue culture labs in like Chinese takeaway containers. They're shipped from South Africa, and then we put them in the little plug trays you can see there at the top and cover them in that white cloth. That's our propagation house at the bottom. So we're planning for our hellebores with PMA and Bonnie 15 months, 2 years out to get the crops in and through quarantine and grown up to you guys. I've got a slide at the end that I can show you where they were, but they're all in retail now. So I didn't know whether you guys really knew that link or there'd be something interest, but that's an example of one of the connections we have internationally with bringing plants into the country. A lot of it comes in by tissue culture now because it's clean and it's easy to get it in through quarantine, obviously, because Australia has such really rigorous, and rightly so, restrictions. We don't want some of those international diseases in our country. So
I think it's very interesting, Steve, for people to see, where some of these plants start and where they come
yeah,
from, and from overseas and whatever.
yeah.
But it's part of why we have the grower to see really what growers are doing. So that's great. Thanks.
Yeah, and I just back that up. I mean, PGA is a bit of an open house to you guys in retail. If you ever want to come and look and have the opportunity, you can always speak to one of our account managers or give us a call. We'd love to show you what it does. Sometimes it's great information for your customers too, to be able to say, wow, I saw where this came from. It's actually come from South Africa, from a lab, and this is what all the effort that's gone in to give you this great genetics. So thought little basic one, little paintbrush there with a bit of plant breeding going, but I don't get too basic, but why do we develop new plants? I'll put novelty there. There are less and less different new plants coming into our industry. A lot of the big houses and a lot of the stuff that comes into the country comes from really big European breeding houses, and it's sort of same but different. And I'm not saying it's not great breeding, but it's just a slightly different version of something that already exists. I suppose PGA prides itself on being able to do something different, and we have a go at lots of different genuses. It doesn't always work, but novelty to our industry and keeping our industry interesting with, and I'll put down the bottom there, great garden and landscape success. There's no point having a new plan if it's not going to stand up. I think that's what's going to inspire the next generation, inspire people coming in wanting to get into gardening. Yeah, new, interesting, better quality genetics is really important to us. And something that you'll see with the ranges that we breed is we make improvement to existing varieties or add better genetics to our ranges. If you look at our lavenders, for example, we've been breeding those for nearly 20 years. The original lavenders that came out, you can't get any more because we're constantly trying to make them better. And the new introductions are better genetics. They're better garden performance. They're new colours. So that constant improvement, so the home gardener gets better plants as time goes on. I reckon that's a really great mantle that the industry should stand by and sing proud that new's not just new, it has to be new and great. So yeah, and we're based on your customers getting great success in the landscape. Otherwise, it doesn't stack up. We're proud that we grow all our plants outside. They're hardy when they get to you guys, and your customers can hopefully have that confidence that they plan and they're going to have the best chance of success. So this is a bit of a cool bit. That's Hal Bentley beside me there, slightly younger version of myself, less facial hair and probably a little bit more on top. But I suppose, privileged and lucky that we've been able to travel the world. That's a French garden fair that we've gone to, where we're looking for new plants, new genetics, something different that we can bring back and put in our breeding programs. This shot here is at Hidgo Gardens, actually. They've got a little garden centre there as well, and sometimes you can find some interesting plants there. So over the years, we have travelled the world a lot looking for not necessarily a perfect plant itself to introduce, but something that's got something of interest that we can add in our breeding programs. Might be a different colour, might be a better form that we can use and then develop when we get back home. So obviously, we don't just randomly do this. Every plant has to be washed out, cleaned. That's actually at the quarantine facility. It's checked. It's methyl bromide gassed. It's brought back in. I thought you'd like that sign there, into our quarantine house, where it stays under quarantine restriction for at least 3 months. It's inspected twice before we're actually allowed to take that plant out. Any problems, it gets destroyed. People complain about quarantine. We don't, in the fact that it's protecting our industry. It is really important that we have the right standards to be able to protect, well, agriculture industry and horticulture industry. So you want a fair but robust system to make sure that's happening. There are a lot of exotic diseases overseas, and Xylella is one at the moment that's causing enormous problems around the world and has dramatically restricted in the last 4 or 5 years what we can bring back into the country. So being able to breed here and breed in Australia and still introduce novelty, because we've got the ability to do that, it's just so important, because there are so fewer plants that you can just bring in, even through the quarantine system we've got now. So as you can tell, we're pretty keen on making sure that we continue plant breeding. I'll kind of, looks like I'm bragging a bit, but just I'll talk about our Drumeria range just as a bit of an example. This beautiful cliff shot is in Ireland, and we know Armerias in the UK and actually lots of area of the Mediterranean. That's their natural environment. And there's Howard Bentley and myself actually in the cliffs near Dingle or the Ring of Kerry in Ireland, looking at different forms of Armeria that we can introduce into our breeding program. So we did this, and we collected seed and forms from around the world. This is going back to the early 2000s, knowing that Armeria is a great genus, but they're really tall, they're really floppy, and they weren't available in a lot of colours. And we thought there was a great opportunity to do some breeding there. So I just run through a couple of pickies about how this works and where we ended up. So this is, I suppose, a mass collection of different forms, different colours that we managed to collect, different flower shapes. Some are balls, some are flat. Most of them are quite tall there. And this is what we do. So we go and collect all the different types we can, and then we put them together, and then we start analysing for what we want. Well, we want shorter flower stems, so we'll separate out the shorter flower stem ones. We want this sort of colour, so we'll pull those colours together. We want disease resistance, so we'll make sure we'll weed out all of the ones that have got disease resistance. All the ones that have no disease resistance, sorry. We want to keep the ones with the resistance. A lot of separation and work goes on before we actually start the crossing. And then when you look at the crossing, this is obviously a lavender flower. The flower itself is not much. We're going in, and this particular picture shows us emasculating the flower. So a lot of our breeding programs are the third one down, which is controlled pollination. So we're actually taking the male part of the flower away so it can't pollinate itself. And then we take pollen from another flower and then pollinate that individual flower to make sure we get the exact cross we want. So natural mutation, I'll just run through this, is pretty much anything that's variegated is a natural mutation. Open pollination is letting the bees and the insects do the work for you. So you don't have a lot of control about what pollen's gone on that plant, but you know which plant you're getting the seed from. Controlled pollination is when you're doing what's happening in that flower, actually purposely crossing pollen from one type of plant with another type of plant, which gives you a lot better outcome of what you're looking for in the results. You might have a male pollen plant that's really short, but a terribly ugly flower. You might have a female plant that's got the greatest colour flower in the world, and you want to get the best habit with the best flower and cross them. And genetic engineering, we don't do that here at PGA, and there's lots of questions around the world about that, and it's not a thing that happens in Australia, or genetically modified. But in the international world, it's probably a very exciting place to be if you're into plant genetics, but not what we do. It's more natural pollination and crossing techniques. So this is the next phase, if you like, with the Dromerias, and this actually goes back to 2009. It's a pretty crappy photo I've got there for you, the red one, but it's you can see it was probably the first really good red we had, and that was, I can tell by that code, it was 2009 we had that, but the flower stem's too long. And if you look at our Drumeria range now, you know, they're all short with nice rounded heads and much cleaner foliage than that chunky foliage there. So what we're doing is constantly working towards getting better, working towards the goal of what we wanted, that range of colours. And if any of you remember PGA from the past, it shows you how old this picture is. We used to have 32 different colour pots going back about 15, 20 years ago. They're different selections in different colour pots that were identified, not because any of them might have made it, but they all had traits that we were looking for.
Steve, how long is it from the pollination to produce a plant where you can start saying it's going to be good or it still needs work, roughly, for the Drumeria?
With the Drumeria, well, I got a picture before. I think we selected the plants over 7 years of trying to get different flower colours.
Right, okay.
But if you pollinate a plant, you're probably looking at 2 years to get it to a size like in that picture, where the picture I've got up now, where you can actually say, okay, this plant's got merit. But that's only stage one, Lee. What we do then is we actually plant them out. We're pretty proud that we plant our plants out as garden specimens to make sure they perform in the landscape. So once you get something at this point, you're really looking still at about another 3 years to prove that it's going to stand up and going to do the things it does when someone plants it in a garden. So there's a lot of testing and trialing that goes on. After that, we're also testing and trialing the propagation and the ability to be able to grow it in commercially, practically from a wholesaler sense as well. So this picture here is, it's the first round where we started to get the colours, but we still had crazy heights and different foliage forms. Getting a little bit further, that was just doing some selection getting them shorter, doing some selection work, and this happens year after year. And then this was actually a fair few years ago now, where we put all our Drumerias at the time and all our lavenders that we had new selections on the bench, and we actually got some other people into the business to start giving us some impressions of what they liked as well. So this was, if you look at that bench there, maybe 2 products came out of it that we would have selected. 95% of what comes out of our breeding programs ends up in the bin because it just doesn't cut it. And then we just work from the 5% again for improvement. But yeah, getting some other eyes on it, because you can get quite insular about your babies and what you like, is a really good thing. You need that perspective.
People wonder why plants cost X new plants. It's a lot of work and money goes into it. There's a lot of time, which is money, of course.
Yeah, it does. So this slide shows you, this is most of the Drumeria selections from a while ago, but there's 7 years of it. I've got 2009 was the first selection that you see up there, and 2016 was the last selection, and this board's a little old now. So that's 7 years of work just to get those colours in, not including the stuff that was done already collecting the genetics and putting it together to start the breeding program. So it's a long process, but geez, it's a fantastic feeling when you achieve something as a breeder and you see that product. And we've been privileged to see stuff overseas, and I think our Drumerias are going to be close to 1 million, coming up close to 1 million units sold through Europe and the UK. Our lavenders have been similar, and there's something kind of special when you walk into a garden centre in another country and you see one of the plants you've bred. And I know it sounds ridiculous. It's not about the money. It's not about any of that. It's just a pride that you've created something that other people are appreciating. So, I suppose that's just the passion in it.
Is there any acknowledgement back to PGA on the overseas label or not?
No.
Okay.
And we actually
to Australia?
all our breeding we get PMA to represent internationally.
Right.
They don't represent all our product here. Some of it we do directly through PGA, our breeding, but anything internationally and bigger national products, they just do an amazing job. I'm talking them up, but they do deserve to be talked up, because
very good.
They do a fantastic job with product and internationally and pulling together everything, not just the plant, the marketing as well. So, that gives you a little bit of a journey about what has to happen for a plant. That's one of our programs. And I suppose some of you will have heard this because we've got account managers that visit you guys anyway. But Vivid Dreams is our new Drumeria release. So that's very close now. We're just waiting for them to get a little bit of more flower on. So hopefully in the next sort of couple of weeks, they'll be close to hitting the market. It's an outstanding colour. Trying to get different colours in sometimes is hard. Sometimes plant vigor is associated with a colour, so you can get the colour, but the plant's not as vigorous. And there's a little bit about this because we had one similar called Dreamweaver. This supersedes it. This is a far better plant because it was a great colour weaver and it was okay, but this is even better. So this is about that constant improvement of a range. So yeah, it's coming in. You can see, screens are always different, but it is a vibrant sort of mauvey purple colour. I took this shot because I'm a grower as well. I want to keep it real. I just took that on my phone. That was our mother stock batch. Just nothing special in the bay, and you can see just how much flower they have on them, and that really nice ball shape. We're trying to get that rounder shape, not that really flat shape in the flowers. So that's just a bit of a close up. So yeah, we're really excited about that one coming for spring. And
any comments, people? What do you think? Thumbs up, that's good.
I'll take a thumbs up.
Yeah, thumbs up. Looks terrific, Steve.
So yeah, and I think when you display them together, the colours start to pop off each other, which yeah, it makes it really good in retail. And you guys are aware, and I'll touch on it. And we've got point of sale and assets, and there's advertising campaigns around it, and social media campaigns as well to help support the product for you guys to get customers to come into store. So next one is Baby Pink Princess. We're very proud that our Lavender range of lavenders, which is growing around the world as well now, is the widest range of colours any group of lavenders has had. We're also very proud that we grow them here, we grow them outside, we garden test and garden trial. The plants, as I said before, outside, if it's 42 degrees outside or -4 degrees outside, they're copping it. So they're hardy plants at your store level and hardy plants for your customers to take home, and plants that have been grown and produced in Australia to perform. I do beat on about it because it is a really good selling point for you guys. It is a gorgeous colour. That's the point of sale beside it that's available. There's a dedicated website as well that PMA manages this. PMA is put together for Lavanova. We're not into trying to just introduce something because it is a unique colour. It's a very compact plant, very floriferous, as you can see. There's no artificial AI in our photos. That's starting to sneak in everywhere as well. But what you see is what you get. So once again, in a collection of lavenders in a display, it's really going to break it up and stand out. So it's got a petiteness to it, hence the baby, and it is a kind of baby pink colour. But yeah, really excited about that addition to the range. Once again, as I said earlier with Lavanova, I mean, lots of those original varieties are no longer available because we just keep coming up with something that's even better for you guys and the customers. That's already in September Gardening Australia, that ad, and we're just waiting for them to put a little bit more flower on. We've got 20 centimetres and 140 mils, and the 20 centimetres are looking delicious. They're just about to pop. So these will be ready in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully, we want it, as it like with Vivid Dreams with the new release, we'd rather get them into store so they make an impact. And you've got the advertising following up, social media campaigns as well. So touch on a couple of other products. This plant was a bit of a sleeper for us, and it's part of our breeding, and absolutely a world first. We worked very hard to try and get a petaled convolvulus. We worked on it for a lot of years. It's quite unstable, some of the original plants, and the fact that sometimes it'd be petaled and sometimes it wouldn't. And we grew it, and this is that pitch is actually in one of our trial gardens, and it's probably a metre wide, that plant, and we grew it for a number of years, and the plant itself never stops flowering. The tightness of the foliage, that's never pruned. It's just a tight mound that just keeps flowering and flowering and flowering. And we thought to ourselves, well, it is an absolute novel flower. It is incredible because of that. But even forget that, it's perpetual flowering and compact plant habit just makes it an absolutely outstanding convolvulus. So you don't even have to sell it because of the petal flower. Just know that it is one of the best convolvulus you could put in your garden because of its habit and its length of flowering. So that one just came out last season, but yeah, we've got some good numbers coming through of it as well now as part of our Moon series. This is Africanized. That's a batch. We've got 4 in the range. That's our own breeding as well. Garden tested, garden trialed. So yeah, as for performance, that batch, I took that photo 3 days ago, 4 days ago. They're ready to pop. So that's going to be some great colour coming in for spring. I particularly like the pink and white. Flowers for a long time. It's just that nice dappled effect. But yeah, we do have the 4 colours in that range. Scabiosa powder puff, our breeding again. So we wanted to create, and this is an ongoing breeding program, so there's more exciting stuff to come in this space. We wanted to create some great, well, container but garden scabiosas as well, and we've been trialing them for several years as garden plants. And what we also wanted to do was try and get some varieties that had some disease resistance in them. So powdery mildew is notorious for scabiosas, if you guys are aware of that. So these are much more resilient to the point when we do it. I won't say proof, I can never say proof, but for the point when we do our trials, we actually put varieties that get smothered in it around our plants that we're testing just to see how easily it spreads. So these selections are great. I saw some on the dock starting to go out yesterday. They're just starting to push up flower, but it's something that we will have kind of ongoing most of the time. We've got a great system about being able to batch those and propagate those. And in the background, what we're also doing with lots of plants, including these and our convolvulus, we actually run clean stock programs. Our lavenders are in it as well, where we make sure the nucleus of our mother stock is virus tested, absolutely clean. And every year we get new mother stock in from a lab to be able to produce the plant. So you're not getting weaker and weaker and weaker and more disease-laden plants year after year. So it's something else that we've really pushed hard for the last 5 years, that key lines are coming in. So they've got all that vigor once they get into the garden.
Got about 2 minutes, Dave.
Yeah, I'll go. I'm nearly there.
Good. Okay, well planned.
Okay. Little China Ruby. I'll rush that one. We've had this for a few years. I actually really want to show you guys this picture. So we grow it in the 140. That's just at the front of the office with barely a kaleidoscope at the back. It's only 50 centimeters high. So it's 3 years old. It's short, but it's not slow. It's actually quick growing. There are other varieties out there that are small but very slow. It's not that. For low hedges, edges of paths, perfect. Plum gorgeous, brilliant plant. Obviously a staple of ours and well renowned, but it does get bigger. So it is a really good option for that. I'm rushing now. Sunseekers, this is a little bit of a taster. Obviously we've had them for 2 seasons and we've got them coming from another season. Amazing breeding from an overseas source. It's not ours. One of those connections and a link through PMA relationship as well. These were the new ones this year. Rush, which you would have seen, but a little teaser. Have a look at those 2 new colours on the side.
Fantastic.
Just amazing. We tested these last year. They're our photos. So they're not European photos. They were the plants. I just love that pumpkin colour. It's just incredible. So exciting to come for the first part of next year. Quickly, point of sale available to you guys. Contact your account managers. Hound them if you need that. We don't want to just supply the plant. We supply so many other assets. We want to make the displays and the product really work for you guys at store level. I had to take this. This is our Monbulk site. It's nearly full. The only blank spot you'll see there near that big cypress hedge is where the hellebores were. And we've got trial gardens right down the bottom and a brand new poly house open sided. You can see just behind the trees. That's about 3/4 of an acre. It's open sided once again to grow cold and hard plants, but just so in winter we can keep a bit of water off some of the foliage of some of the plants. And our Wonga Pike site is full. I must admit, I've got a drone, so I love taking a drone shot. I took this last Thursday. We're full, ready to go for spring on both sites. Just waiting for the weather to do us what it needs to do on the weekends, which would be great. And finally, just finish up with we're spring ready. That's a collection of all our ranges, either bred or sourced exclusively from overseas. So yeah, tap into our assets. If you ever want photography, speak to your account managers or ring the office. If you're doing socials, whatever we can provide bigger than just a plant to help you guys make an impact in your store and to your customers, we want to be part of that. So thanks for your time.
Brilliant, Steve. There must be some questions. Anybody? Don't be shy.
Are you going to have baby blue prints or just the pink princess?
The lavender breeding's ongoing for sure, and there are more in the pipeline.
Okay.
On you, James. Keep harassing him. It'll happen.
Stir us up. Yep. Yeah,
anybody else got any questions? We've got a couple of minutes for questions if need be. Don't be shy. No? All right. Well, thank you, everybody, and Steve in particular. That's been magnificent. As Steve says, we actually, the grower tour went to PGA, I think it was last year, but no doubt we'll be there again next year. But there's a lot to see, and fantastic with your assets as well. And I know you have people on the road, and you do deal with the big green box. We know that only 2L, but that's fine. You look after the independents very well. So
our independent important is, you guys know that is incredibly important to us, and we only want to support that in every possible way we can.
We know that, and you're one of the gig partners, which is all about independence. So appreciate all that. Thank you, everybody. We'll let you get back and hopefully get some customers to serve. And look forward to next time. I will record this. You'll all get a copy. I have recorded, although I missed the very start. Luckily, Lisa reminded me again. Thank you. And have a great spring, everybody. Keep in touch. Thank you. Goodbye.
Sorry, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah.